player swap between two colors, we're going to use a certain tone of blue and red. So to do this, we need to do a few tricks here. So in the create event, you're going to select the control tab and drag a piece of code here. So we're going to name this, so 3 slashes, initialize variables. Okay, so we know that we have variables like speed and direction. So these are two variables that are built in with whatever object we create. So what if we want to make a variable by ourselves, an instance variable, something that is inside our object? We can just give it a name and make an assignment. This is enough to initialize a variable in GameMaker. No need of special keywords or any functions to call. You just type whatever you want. So for the player, we're going to use is blue, and we're going to store the value true here. So is blue is a variable that is going to contain a Boolean variable, okay, a Boolean value, which is either true or false. Okay, it's going to basically hold a value which is true or false. And also to start, we're going to set the player's color to, you guessed right, we're going to set it as blue. Okay, so to do this, we're going to type image underscore, and notice that if you start typing a variable name and you wait or you press Ctrl space, then you're going to have a handy window here that is going to show you some suggestions of what can be used with GameMaker. So this is kind of the autocomplete functionality. So if you start by typing image underscore and wait, you have a few things that you can change here. So you have the scale, speed, you can change the number, the angle, the alpha, and all of these things of course can be accessed by the great documentation of GameMaker, but the one that we're going to use is image blend. We're going to set image blend, image underscore blend equals to, and now we have to set the blue color. We're simply going to type here C underscore and we wait, and we can set blue here. Okay, so it looks like this. We have image underscore blend equals to C underscore blue. Let's give this a try. Let's click on run the game, wait for the code to compile. If we have any mistakes, we're going to know by now. So we have our window here, the game starts, and we have a blue player. Okay, so it looks like this. If you want to use another tone, if you want to use another color, you can just change that C to whatever you want. So for example, let's try aqua. I think this is a lighter tone of blue, so it contrasts better with that dark background we have here. Okay, so it looks like this. Let's use this color. And as I told you before, since the player is white, whatever color you use is going to be the fill of the player. Okay, and since the other details of it are black, these black pixels won't absorb the color of the player, right? So let's close this, and what we have to do now is whenever we press the space bar or the enter key, whatever you want, we change the color. So we swap between aqua and red. And to do this, let's go to the player. We're going to click on add event, but instead of going to this keyboard menu here, we're going to go to key press and select space. What's the difference? These 4 events here, these 4 keyboard events that we added for left, up, right, and down, they are risen every time you keep these keys down. So for example, if I press the up key, the event is going to happen, and while I hold down that key, the event is going to happen on every step of the game. So if the game runs at 60 frames per second, then the speed is going to be set to 5 at 60 times a second. So it keeps setting the speed like that. It doesn't matter how much friction we added here in the create event. Now this event here is going to happen when you press the key down. And if you want it to happen again, you have to release the key and press it again. So it's kind of a trigger event. So for example, this is good for changing colors, for jumping, for shooting. These are things that need to happen once, and you have to release the key and press it again. Alright, so we have this press space key event here. Let's drag another piece of code. We're going to name this, so we start with 3 slashes of course, and we're going to use swap colors. Now we need to check what color do we have here. Okay, so we have a variable that is called is blue. Okay, and this is going to store either true or false. So to swap the colors, we need to change first that variable, that isBlue variable. So what we're going to do is we're going to type isBlue equals to exclamation mark isBlue. Okay, this exclamation mark here is an operator that is going to reverse whatever Boolean variable we have here. So what we're doing is we're going to make an assignment to the isBlue space of memory. And this thing that is going to be stored here is the opposite of what is inside isBlue. So if isBlue is true, it is going to become false. And that false, okay, that false variable is going to be dragged and stored here in the isBlue variable. So if isBlue is false, then we're going to apply this operation, and isBlue and whatever we have here is going to become true. So that true thing is going to be stored on isBlue. Okay, so we swap the value stored in isBlue here, but we still have to change the color. We need to change the image blend. How do we check what is inside isBlue? We need to make an if block. Okay, so let me start by typing it like this. So we have the if keyword, then you have parentheses, you have open and close parentheses, and you have curly braces down here. So whatever you put inside in parentheses is a question. You're going to make a question here, and that question needs to be something that returns either true or false. If the value inside here is true, you're going to enter in this curly braces and execute whatever code you type here. If it is not, then it's not going to execute. So the question that we want to make here is blue equals, now we use two equal signs here because this is not an assignment, this is a question. We are making a question. Now if isBlue equals to true, then we're going to do something here. If isBlue equals to true, then image underscore blend is going to be C underscore aqua. So it looks like this. Okay. Now, what if isBlue is false? We could add another if block here that checks if isBlue equals to false. However, we can just use the else keyword. Alright, so this block is going to look like this. If isBlue is true, then we apply the color to be aqua. If it is not, this is not going to run. What is going to run is what is below the else block inside these curly braces. So we can type here image underscore blend equals to C underscore red or whatever other color you want, like pink for example. So it looks like this. We change the value of isBlue, and if isBlue is true, we set the color to be aqua. If it is not, it's going to be red. So let's give this a try. We're going to hit run the game, wait for the code to be finished, and after it is, we have our game here. If we press space, then we turn to red. If we press space again, we turn to blue or aqua. So if we keep pressing space, then the color is going to change. Okay, so this is going to work just fine for this game. Alright, so in the next video, we're going to make some targets for our player to collide with and collect them. See you in the next video. To make a target, we need to make a sprite for it first. So we right click on the sprites folder, select create sprite. I'm going to name this spr underscore target, then edit sprite. We're going to click on create a new sprite and keep the size the default one, 32 by 32 pixels. I'll double click to open and then give this a nice zoom. Now for drawing that rectangle, that target, I'm going to use the rounded rectangle tool. So we select it. Let's make sure the colors are black and white. Now we're going to make the rounded rectangle like this, so the target looks like a rounded rectangle, and we're going to make a few other layers to this rectangle. Okay, so it resembles some kind of shooting range target maybe. So it looks like this. Okay, now if you want the tint to have an interesting color, we can use different tones of gray here in the target. So we're going to select the paint bucket tool and we're going to apply different tones of it here. Okay, this one might be a bit too dark, so you can change between different strength of it. Okay, so let's keep it that way. Maybe make this one a bit lighter. Okay, this should work fine for the target. We now click on the check marks to save everything. Let's click on center to make sure that the origin of the target is here. Click OK. So we have our target thumbnail here. And for objects, we can right click here, select create object. Now obj underscore target. We're going to select the target sprite, click in here, and alright, we have the object of it. Now to add it to the room, let's double click on the rooms here, on our game room, and let's go to objects folder, and we're going to select our target object here. So we're going to right click, select target object, and we're just going to click around to add a few of them. Okay, so let's give this a try. If we click on run the game now, we're going to see a very basic game where we have a blue player, and the objective is to match the colors of the target, so you have to go ahead and touch them. But so far two things are missing. Our targets, they don't have any color. Okay, so they are basically gray. We have to give them the color of aqua or red so we are able to collect them. And after that we need to make a collision. So if you collide with a target that contains the same color as the player, then you kind of score a point, and if you collide with the wrong one, then you don't score a point and you lose the game. Okay, so let's go ahead and do this. We're going to open the target here, the target object. Let's click on add event and select create, and what we're going to do here is drag a piece of code. Let's add 3 slashes and type initialize variables. And what we're going to do here is we need to randomize. We need to choose a random number to give the color blend of the target. So let's make a local variable. Okay, we're going to start by typing var random underscore number equals to irandom 2. Actually, irandom 1. What did I do here? When I type var, I'm declaring a local variable. This is a variable that is only going to be accessed in the scope of this script. Okay, so this is not going to be something that can be accessed through other code blocks and other events of the target. Okay, it would be different if I did it just like that. This would be an instance variable. If I use var, this is going to be local. And when I say irandom here, I'm going to get a random number that is either 0 or 1. So for example, if I use 100 here, this would return a random number between 0 and 100. So it could be 1, 30, 42, 27. So something I'm going to use irandom 1, this is going to be either 0 or 1. And the technique that we're going to use here is check if random underscore number equals to 0, then we're going to set the image blend of the target. So image underscore blend equals to c underscore aqua. Okay, so it looks like this. However, else, so if the random number is anything else, which in this case it could only be 1, then image underscore blend is going to be c underscore red. Okay, so we get a random number, it could be 0 or 1. If the number is 0, the blend is aqua. If the number is 1, then the blend is red. So let's check this out. We're going to hit run. Let's wait for the code to compile and see if we have any mistakes. If we don't, everything should run well. And there we go. We have our player and we have targets with different colors that are either aqua or red. Okay, so now we need to process these collisions. We need to check when we collide with the player. So if we collide the player and the target, we need to check if the colors are the same. If they are, we destroy the target. If they are not, we're going to force a restart of the game. Okay, let's try this out. We are going to the target object here. Now we're going to click on add event. Now we're going to select collision, and we're going to select the obj underscore player here. So notice that if you had 10 different objects and you clicked on collision, we would have 10 different options here, because collisions always happen in a one-by-one basis. So you check the collisions between targets and players, or players and coins, or players and spikes, for example. Let's select the player here. We're going to drag a piece of code, and what we need to do here is check if we collided with a player which contains the same color as us. So how do we do this? Okay, so let's add check collision. We're going to type here if image underscore blend equals to other dot image underscore blend. Okay, so what I wrote here, image underscore blend is the instance variable of the target. Okay, remember the script we are writing is inside a target. Okay, so we are in the target object and we're adding a script here. So this returns the image blend of this target. Then we compare with other.imageBlend. Other is a reference to the object which collided with the target. So this is the player that collided with us. When we add the dot character here, we are accessing the scope of that other object. So we are accessing the variables or functions, if there were any, of the player. And then we use image blend here, then we are accessing the image blend variable of that other, which is the player. Okay, so sometimes it might confuse when you say image blend equals to other.imageBlend. So when we type it like this, when we type image blend with nothing, it's the same as typing self, not image blend. So that should make more sense, should be more readable if you look at it. So you're checking self's image blend and others image blend and comparing them. So if they are the same, then we're going to destroy the target. And to destroy the target, we're going to type instance underscore destroy and open and close parentheses. So what happened here, when you are in the room and you see all these players and all these targets here, you're not seeing objects, you see instances of the objects, because objects are like the models that you use. You clone objects, you instantiate objects to add instances to the room. And that's why when we call that a destroy function, we start with instance underscore. Okay, so we are accessing the instance of the target and destroying it. Now, if the color is not the same, we're going to add an else block here with these curly braces. We're going to type game underscore restart, open and close parentheses. So notice that instance underscore destroy in game underscore restart, they are yellowish, they are kind of orange, different than the image blend, for example. And this happens because these are functions, and functions are routine. It's kind of a routine of operations, a sequence of operations, of steps that you're going to follow, and this is going to work internally. This is a function that is provided by GameMaker. So the function instance destroy, of course, destroys the instance, and game underscore restart restarts the game. And functions, sometimes they receive arguments, they receive some settings that you can use, and that's why we have parentheses here. So these arguments would come here, so it could be 1, 2, 3, but since we have no arguments, we need to open and simply close the parentheses to inform that we are not doing anything special. Okay, so let's try this out. We're going to click on run game. Let's wait for the code to be compiled, and after that we should be able to collect the targets. Okay, so there we go. If we touch a blue target, if we touch an aqua target, then the target simply disappears, so it is collected. And if we touch a red one while we are in the aqua color, then the game restarts. Okay, you need to be in the same color of the target or the game will restart. Okay, so this should be it for this basic mechanics. We're getting there. Now what I want to do is, when we collide with the target, okay, we want another one to appear in the game. Okay, so we have a fixed amount of targets here. So for example, I think I added around 10 targets. If I collect one of the targets, I want another one to appear somewhere in the game. Okay, so you always have a certain amount of targets. And to do this, we need to add an abstract object, so some object that is going to control the rules of the game. Okay, we're going to add this object in the next lesson. Okay, let's make that abstract object. We're going to the objects folder, let's right click on it and select create object, and here we're simply going to type obj underscore game controller, and that's it for this object. Okay, you notice that it contains a white thumbnail because we didn't make any sprite assignments to it. And before we do anything with it, let's go to the room, so rm underscore game, let's move to the top left of the room. And here on object to add with left mouse, we're going to click on this button and select game controller, and we click here. So we're going to see this blue with this blue circle with a red question mark, but don't worry, it contains no images, and we added it outside because we want it to be easily accessible by us if we decide to delete it at some point in time. Okay, so when we add one game controller, we ensure that the code is going to run. Now let's go back to the game controller. What we're going to do here is we're going to add an event, and we're going to add a step event. Okay, let's check how many targets we have here. So we go to the room. We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. We have 11 targets here. So let's keep it at that count. Okay, let's keep it at 10. Okay, so we have 10 targets here that are going to be in the game. We always have 10 targets in the game. So let's go to the game controller, and we're going to drag a piece of code here. Okay, so we're going to type here instantiate targets. Right, so what are we going to do here? We need to know how many targets we have in the game, and if we have less than 10 targets, we're going to add another target to the game. Okay, and how do we do this? We're going to type here if, and then it's a good practice to write the whole block. Okay, so if, open parenthesis, close parenthesis, new line, curly brace, new line, another curly brace. So it looks like this. Now if instance underscore number, and instance underscore number is a function that is going to count how many instances of a certain object you have, and the parameter, the argument of that function, is going to be obj underscore target. So we're counting how many targets we have. If that target amount is lesser than 10, okay, so if instance number of obj underscore target is lesser than 10, then we need to add a new target here. How do we add a new target? We're going to type instance underscore create, and this is a function, so we use parentheses here. And however, this function requires 3 arguments. How do we know how many arguments we need to add? You can check the signature of that function here. So you have x, y, and the object to be used. So the x position, I'm going to use irandom, and then pass 800 as the argument. So I'm going to get a number between 0 and 800, and that instance is going to be spawned there. Now the second number is going to be irandom, and I'm going to use 640. Okay, and what I'm doing here is, this is the horizontal position where the target is going to appear, and this is the vertical position where the target is going to appear. Alright, and finally I'm going to add the object, so obj underscore target. Okay, so this is going to look like this. We create an instance of a target at 800, 640, and we pass the target, so we are making a target instance. So let's give this a try. We're going to click on run the game. We wait for the code to compile, for everything to be ready for us. So there we go. We have our player here. If we collect a target, another one appears somewhere in the game. Okay, so notice that they have different colors. They keep randomizing the colors, so we have an interesting mechanic here. So we have to collect as much as we can at a certain time. Okay, so in the next video, what we're going to do is we're going to make a simple interface for our game where we can send messages to the player. So we say collect all the targets, for example, and later give this game a time limit. So the player needs to collect as much as they can in 15 seconds, for example. We'll start doing this in the next video.